This episode was sponsored by Fraze Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shape of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has its own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at phraseflowers.com. That's Frase flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Fraze Flowers. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. As always, I'm PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 357. I'll have to check the archives. This might be our first ever Tuesday episode. Have we hit every day of the week at this point? I don't know if we've ever hit a Saturday or Sunday, but we might be able to cross off a Tuesday. I don't remember ever doing a Tuesday. Maybe last year during the playoffs. I don't know.
I don't know if we've pushed any Bills ones to like late
you
night.
You might be
Bills
right.
ones.
We might have done a Tuesday in the past to some Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it was a busy weekend. Bandits played home on Friday. They traveled all the way to Vancouver on Sunday and played a 9 p.m. game where, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the game, mute your ears really quick. They won. They swept the series. We'll have a nice little graphic out today, and that's how you're probably going to see this episode is on the social media sites. We make the graphics each and every episode, but it was a late night. It was even later for me because I started the game late. Still 6 puppies. Actually, it's down to 5 dogs now. We've lost one. We sent one back home to my sister-in-law's house, so Shelby is now there. But still have 3 puppies, 2 of our own dogs. So it's a little crazy in here. There's been raining nonstop, trying to catch up on grass, and my yard floods in certain areas. So weed whacking. It's like 900 degrees up in this office, and we were talking before we started to record. I'm gonna have to find a solution because 80-degree days in the summer recording is not going to be fun. I'm very happy it's just one show a week from June on, but until then, I got to find a way to survive this because it's hot up here, Phil. It's hot.
Yeah, I had the Bandits game Friday. Saturday night, found out there was a leak in the basement through one of the pipes. It was a very small leak, but it was a leak that's been going on for a little bit, and all of a sudden we heard a lot of water splashing in the basement. We were like, what the heck is going on? Went down there, found one of the raised ceiling tiles soaked, and most of the floor in one area was soaked. Luckily, it all was leaking near where the floor drain is, near the sump pump, so it didn't have far to go to be drained out, and it really kind of stayed over there, so that was nice. But spent all of Sunday with my dad replacing a ton of galvanized steel pipe to PEX. Long story short, it was like a 8-9 hour day. Your classic plumbing 5 to 6 trip. Went to Lowe's like 6 times to get all the pieces, return other pieces, get more pieces, get the right tools. Really, really long day. Was working on one last leak today from some of the new stuff, and then working on some water pressure at the kitchen because the hot water wasn't coming out right. So worked on that today as well. But I think right now everything is back up and running, no leaks, and we got hot water all over the place. So it was going to have to eventually happen. The plan was to take out one part of the pipe, and then every kind of section we went back to, we couldn't remove the pipe. So we kept going back farther and farther and farther, and eventually ended up at the hot water tank. So we removed way more than initially expected, but it had to come out eventually. Probably would have rusted through at some point. So long term, we're looking much better. Short term, it was a lot of work.
That sounds like PK Niagara Falls days of hot water tank issues. I had water issues of my own, but I didn't do the work. We hired out for that one. We put in
basement's
drain
like
tile.
a 2x2 square, so
Yeah, we put in drain tile in our basement because our basement has always been flooded. They sent me videos. I should send it to you. I don't think you've seen it. There was so much water trapped behind the walls that they literally, it was a 9-hour job that was supposed to be done in like 4 hours just because they had to keep waiting for the water to continuously flow. The one video of where it comes out of the stairs is just insane. And that was after it had been flowing for like 2 hours. Like, there was so much water stuck behind those walls. It's not going to happen anymore. As soon as it catches up and dries out down there, we're good moving forward. But yeah, I had water issues of my own, but it wasn't anything like yours. Mine was to fix a problem. Yours was a problem that you had to fix. So yeah, we're the water boys this weekend.
Basement water boys this weekend.
Basement water boys, and my backyard and yard is flooded. So we need the rain to stop for a while. Like I've said multiple times, spring is the worst season. You can't tell me otherwise. Winter is so much better than spring, but it's still below fall and summer. But I hate spring. It's stupid season, especially when you got 5 dogs and it's a mud pit out there. But remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok if you want to send your well wishes to the Water Boys, Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can check out our store on our link tree on all our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. There won't really be one this episode because we're already like 8 minutes in. The Bandits swept. Vancouver went home early. Bandits just... I don't know how we're going to separate these two games, really. We're kind of probably going to end up mashing it together. That's why I hate playoffs and stuff like this, because it's always two games we got to cover in the same one. But thankfully it's one team that they're facing. But something switches with the Buffalo Bandits that I don't think many, if any, other teams in professional sports have. Like, there are other teams that can flip a switch, but I don't think there's ever been a team that can flip a switch and be this dominant in the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. It's insane what they're able to do. And even if you want to carry it back to the 2 before that, just getting to the finals. But these last 3 seasons, what happens to this team when they make the playoffs? It's and I'm trying to be as unbiased as I humanly possibly can with this team. But when you hear it from other people, it's just this team is on another level when the clock turns to March. Or I'm sorry, May. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, they were really good games. Like you said, it's going to be tough. I'd like to go 1 and then 2 because they were pretty different games.
Very different,
so
yeah.
I think, game 1 will be easy to talk about in my opinion, but I would like to kind of go game 1, game 2. I feel like we're going to be all over a little bit as we normally are, but like you said, this team, this was a series I think you and I were worried about headed into it. Vancouver,
as were a lot of people,
right? And Vancouver was 7-0, I think, headed into this series, and hadn't lost with Del Bianco. That's a team that I think, if I remember on the broadcast, I want to say they were 20-0 at home against East teams. Like, an East team had never gone into Vancouver and won. So a lot of things were stacked, not necessarily against the Bandits. We had faith that the Bandits would come out and win this series, but it was still going to be a big challenge is what we thought headed into it. I think game 2 was a much bigger challenge than game 1, but in general, I thought Vancouver was going to be able to steal 1. I thought they had a good enough team to get Buffalo off on one of the games, and they just couldn't do it. Like you said, Buffalo's switch that they are able to flip, and you can see the professionalism is not really the word I'm looking for, but their just ability to play playoff lacrosse is pretty much unmatched. And they even mentioned it on the broadcast of the Bandits started 7-0 and then went, I think, was it 5-6 or 6-5 down the stretch and lost a bunch of games toward the end. But you could tell the Bandits weren't worried. You could tell they were kind of, like you mentioned, put it a little bit into coast mode, that they were just, we know what it takes to win. We know what it takes to win in playoffs. Let's wait for that, and then we'll gear up. And all of a sudden, you're like, going into playoffs, you're wondering, okay, do they have that ability to flip that switch? Like, is it going to show up? And my goodness, has it shown up? And they're now, 8-0 in the last 8 playoff games? Like, yes, like you said, you can go even further back. I don't know when they last lost.
I think they're 13-1 or 14-1. I don't know if they counted the Sunday one since
I saw Johnny, they said, for his coaching was 16-3 in the last.
He's now 18-3.
Yeah, that's insane. That is absolutely insane, and obviously headed to 5 straight finals, also insane. But like you said, the playoff switch dominance has been just unreal.
Yeah, we'll try to crank out these games one at a time, but also wrap it up into one big bow at the end. So we won't touch on everything. That's kind of what Phil's article is. Anything that we don't touch on, that'll be out on Wednesday. Listen for that because we're shift down a day each week. We had a nice long break and now it's all condensed. But game one, Friday night in Banditland, 9-3. McKay had 4, Smith had 2, Nanacoke, Byrne, and Frazier 1 each. Vince, insane, 35 of 38 saves. Shots were 49-38 in favor of Buffalo. Vancouver won the faceoffs 9-7. They were 3 of 5 on the power play. Buffalo was 4 for 7, including that 5-minute major to start the game. We'll start with the offense. That 6-goal run after going down 1-0 was insane. The second half, it was only 2-1 advantage for Buffalo. Byrne actually looked healthy in this one. I thought he looked really, really good. You could tell that he was playing more playmaker and distributor than he was the go-to Air Byrne type of player. Nanacoke's no goal, that was a rule that I didn't even know about. That was where the stick was across the line. It had to be in front of the goal line. I have no idea about that one, so I thought the refs explained that one perfectly. But the only negative was it seemed like the connection with Kyle Buchanan was off that game. Like it was in the right positions, the passes were close, and he just wasn't able to connect on those one-timers. It's vintage Kyle Buchanan in front of the net. But overall, the offense was really, really solid. The second half, they went against an elite goaltender and an elite defense. They did exactly what they needed to, but Ian McKay is I need to send an apology note because holy cow is he a forward now. Like he can play the back end and transition, but this team, and we saw it for glimpses, this team is not the same team without Ian McKay playing lefty forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get back to that in the wrap up because I have a question for you. But no, it was a good game. This one to me, not anywhere near like the San Diego close game where San Diego was only able to get 4 goals and pretty much essentially 3 until the 1 second left. But that game was nerve-wracking the entire time. It was very close the entire time. You were hoping San Diego wouldn't be able to go on a run, but it was close enough that if they went on a run, it was going to be a big issue. Whereas this game, once they were up 6-1, it was over. And it was still a good game. I'm not saying that, but toward the second half, I was honestly, like, bored isn't the right way to put it, but it was just so in hand. Like, the way the Bandits were playing, they didn't need to score. They were just focused on shutting down transition. The defense was playing ridiculously well, and Matt Vince was playing amazing. So they just didn't need to do anything in the second half. I was happy to see them get a goal in the third quarter because they didn't score at all in the second half against San Diego. So it was nice to see them score at all in the second half just to prove that they could do it. But once again, similar to the San Diego game, they just didn't need to prove that they needed to score any goals. The game-winning goal came very early in the second quarter for this one. So, I mean, yes, the offense kind of struggled in the second half, but I think at that point you're focused more on the defensive, shutting down transition, getting off the field early, making sure you're kind of shot clock watching because you don't need to score at that point. So you're not pushing that shot clock to the limit. You're playing, and then 5 seconds left, half the team's left because they got to get the defense on to make sure you're keeping up with that. But I thought the offense did enough, and Ian McKay, he's just ridiculous.
Yeah, this was a game where in the whole series, I know we're trying not to do it in the whole series, but it seemed like Dane and Josh were a little bit quieter, and the depth scoring on this team, especially Ian McKay, came out to play in this one. And even Buchanan was a bit quiet, but he had Frazier with a goal. He had Nanacoke with a goal. Kluch was big-time pick setter in this one, which we said he needed to be back in the lineup, and Scanlon needed to go back as a healthy scratch because of how big this defense was and how physical this defense was. But, I mean, with 9 goals, Byrne had 5 points, Smith with 3. So they were a bit quieter, but still, when you go percentage-wise, they were involved in a lot of the plays. It just seemed like they were a little bit more quiet. Josh Byrne, I mean, for the ankle, and then you had Dane Smith kind of getting locked down against Vancouver. And then credit to Vancouver. They played fantastic defense, and Christian Del Bianco played fantastic in net. But we'll transition over to the defense here. I mean, my God, this was one of the best efforts I've seen out of the defense. I don't have really any negatives to say. They were able to keep Keegan Ball in check. Yes, it was involved in all 3 goals, but guess what? They scored 3 goals. I mean, Kevin Crowley had 2 points. You had Martel with 1. Cormier and Clarish both went over in this one. Charlene Beatties, who was hot going into this one, only 2 assists on 10 shots. So this defense was able to play swarm defense, play smart defense, and the only 3 goals that were even allowed were on the power play. 11 block shots, 10 caused turnovers. I thought this game, a few defenders stood out to me like beyond. I thought Whitty played amazing. I thought Zach Belter played amazing. I thought Dylan Robinson played amazing. It was a big collective unit from the defense, but those three players in particular stood out to me, especially in this one, locking down some of the. I mean, going into this one, Vancouver offense was legit. They went from 15 goals versus Rochester down to 3 in this one, and it was unbelievable. I really thought this was the best defensive showing that we've seen the entire season.
Yeah, like you said, there's really nothing to complain about. And even the points they got, like you said, because they were on the power play, they're going to get those points. I mean, Not only, yes, you'd like the power penalty kill to be a little bit better, but not giving them points on even strength is ridiculous. Yeah, so in them to 0 goals even strength is insane. So yes, some of those players got the points that they got. Like you said, Ball ended up with, assisting or scoring on every single goal that was involved, but there were only 3 goals, and all those were on the power play where you can move the ball around much more effectively. So they're going to get their points in those situations. But I thought the style of defense they played was very different than they've played in the past, and the fact that they didn't really pack it in. They were playing right on top of everyone. They were playing extreme kind of press coverage, and they were in everybody's faces. The switches were incredible. The physicality was incredible. There's really just, like you mentioned, nothing like this is how you want the team to play. Obviously, that's very easy to say, but this looked incredible from a defensive standpoint, and to be able to lock Keegan Ball down the way they did, like the second he had the ball, somebody was in his face, and they did not give him the time and space at all to move around, to take those shots, to do pretty much anything, and even allowing any kind of inside opportunities. They were forcing everybody to the outside and forcing them to take bad shots at the last second of a shot clock. So the defense in this one, like you mentioned, the players you expected to be great were great, but the players that normally aren't necessarily bad, but they raised their level in Whitty and Belter. Like, those are solid players, but they went to another level, and even Whitty in the second game and Belter in the second game. I thought, like, how they've played throughout the playoffs so far, they've really elevated their game to a level we haven't seen yet before, and even Wires is playing incredible. So, like, yes, you have your Priolos, your Weises, your Martins that you expect to be, your Dawsons to be the veteran core that is, pretty much flawless, but the other supporting pieces who are already good are now playing even better, and like you said, taking it up to another gear that I didn't even know a player like Whitty had. And that's not a shot against what he's done so far for the Bandits, but he's playing an even higher level of lockdown defense I don't think we really knew he had in him.
Yeah, and this is another reason, and I know Cam Wires was hurt, that's why he didn't play in this matchup, but this goes back to the point of why the heck wasn't Zach Belter in the lineup the first time they faced Vancouver and you put a Taylor Dooley in. It's just, again, no shot at Taylor Dooley as a rookie going against a Kurt Malowski offense. It was a bad roster decision in my opinion, and this game showed it, and it showed you had Cam Wires and Zach Belter in the lineup, you see what happens. And again, it's hard to really say, haha, look at this, because it's 3 goals. I mean, it's a once in a playoff type of thing. I mean, it rarely ever happens. I think, 2 other times it's ever happened in the playoffs, almost, where it was Doug
3.
Jamieson and Aaron Bold, I believe it was, and then Matt Vince, of course, but it rarely ever happens. So it's hard to say, this is what could have happened in the regular season, because I don't think they give up 3 goals in the regular season, but it's just, this is the type of defense that you needed against a style of offense like that. But we'll move over to the goaltender right now. It stinks with a performance like this that I can't say anything about it. I just want his play to do the talking. And we kind of did that versus San Diego as well. It's just 2 goals in the first half, 23 minutes and 28 seconds between goal 1 and goal 2, 19:56 between goals 2 and 3, and all 3 of them were on the power play. It's ridiculous. I mean, what he was able to do, and I'm not even going to bring up his age, what a goaltender is able to do like this was ridiculous. And yes, credit to the defense for only allowing 38 shots for starters. I mean, that happened in the second game. We'll talk about that in a second. But they gave exactly the shots that Matt Vince wants to see, and it was flawless. Like, they worked as a complete unit. And of course, like you mentioned, this is how you want everything to work together. But it's easier to say when only 3 goals go in. But the communications, the switch-offs, the positioning, everything worked to a T minus the penalty kill. And even with that, I mean, it's a good power play that Vancouver has. They have some skilled players over there. It's just, I thought this was an absolute flawless game between the defense and goaltender. And it's one of those ones that you rarely ever see, that literally almost every single thing goes right.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's frustrating for us because there's nothing to complain about, which makes it for a very, very quick quick breakdown. But Vince just continues to be absolutely incredible. Like you said, there's really just nothing we can say to justify how great he's playing. Just go watch the game again and have a great time watching how absolutely incredible he is. The man better not ever retire. Maybe 55, 56, he can hang it up. But until then, my goodness, please keep playing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous what he's able to do. But just to wrap this game up, I don't know if they were baiting him to do it or if this was just Christian Del Bianco being Christian Del Bianco. He tried so many long balls in this game, and very few of them actually hit. I understand that when the offense is not working like that, you're trying different things to maybe get the transition game going. But credit to the Bandits defense and the back checking by the forwards. Like, they allowed maybe one or two transition opportunities, and even then, it was like the Jeff Cornwall one, I believe it was in the third quarter. They hit him in stride, but he shot it from 20 feet out, and it just hit Matt Vince in the chest. And I think it was in the third or the fourth quarter, and I look over to Brooke, I'm like, they can do that all the rest of the game. Like, if they want to put shots right in Matt Vince's chest, let them have that. Like, it was perfect. The penalties, I thought Belter got him up high. Yes, that was the right call. Dawson got him up high. That was the right call. Whitty holding the stick. Right call. Connor Farrell's, I didn't really see it, but, it was a bad angle. And then the last one, Cam Wires, I'm happy they called it a 5 so they could reduce it down to a 2, but that wasn't even a boarding call. Like, it was in his stick. He hit him like a tiny bit in the back, but it was a clean hit.
Pretty much from the side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain about the referees at all, but
they were fine.
It was a very even called game, and we'll talk about the refs a little bit more in the second game, but I'm not complaining whatsoever. It's just we always go over the penalties, good, bad, ugly, whatever. But overall, this was one of the best games that we've seen from Buffalo as a collective since the start of the season, maybe. I know San Diego's as well, but they only scored 5 goals in that one, no second half goals. I thought collectively this was a very well played, perfect, flawless game, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, the San Diego game was fantastic from a defensive standpoint, but the offense went really, really quiet, which they did enough to win the game. Right. But this game, much more well-rounded as a team, and I do think they kind of shut their offense down a little bit. Not saying they gave up or anything, but again, I think they were more focused on the defense. Once they were up 7-2 at half, it was just, okay, yep, we're already up by enough. Our defense is clearly working really well. Vince is playing amazing. Keep this up and just kind of ride it out to the end, and I think that's kind of what they did. But penalties, I completely agree with you. Wires, when they were going over it on the broadcast, I remembered that they said like a 5-minute could be reduced to a 2 or reduced to nothing, and I don't think that's ever happened because then the refs
it has. I think it was last year either with or against the Bandits. I remember it got reduced completely.
That's kind of what I thought might happen, and that's, I mean, if you watch Johnny, he was saying that there wasn't a penalty at all. I was kind of watching the replay a ton of times, and like that should be reduced to nothing, and I don't know. I mean, it is. I
think
what
it was too good of a hit. I think they had to call it because it was too good of a hit.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I have no problem with that. And even McKay's that was reviewed, I thought that was fine as a 5-minute. It got him in the face mask first, even if his head was a little bit down, and the face mask part he got him in was the bottom of it. Still, you got face mask before anything else, so fine with that review as well. Obviously, it got upheld, which was great for the Bandits, but either way, I do think it was a good call to uphold.
So before we get into Game 2, we will go over our second sponsor, 2 and 2, of the show, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps, offering a wide variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Wednesday, Geeks Who Drink. That's actually taking place tomorrow. If you're listening to this Tuesday, if you're listening to this Wednesday, it's today. Get down there, 7:30, trivia night. You can go show off your skills. Thursdays are still and will be throughout the summer. Thank you Thursdays from 6 to 10. Teachers, first responders, and military all get discounts on your orders. So head down there if you are one of those three and drink on Tap That Tap Room. Friday, happy hour, 3 to 7. There is no Bandits game this weekend, but you can head down there and find your new favorites. So when the Bandits go to the finals and they host a party, you don't have to look around and sample. You already know which one's your favorite. Thursday, May 22nd. Yes, it's a bit off, but when Tap That Taproom partners with other people, just like we partner with them and they partner with us. We want to put it out there so you get it on your calendar early and you can make sure you're there. They will be hosting macaroon and beer/cider tasting. They're partnering with Sprinkles Bake Shop and Cafe in Tonawanda. It is a ticketed event, so make sure you get yours now. Do not wait. This will be sold out. Guaranteeing. I'm putting my stamp of approval on it right now. But head down and make sure you're at that event, because I'm not a big macaroon person, but I'm a big cider guy. You know this, so maybe I'll partake in a little cider tasting. But to find out what else is coming up, head down to their Facebook page to find out what else is there, and to find out what's on tap and what's on deck, head down to tapthattaproom.com. We're heading down to Game 2 now for the Buffalo Bandits. What was that?
I said we're headed down to Vancouver.
We are headed down to Vancouver, which I think is actually more north of us, but I don't have a map in front of me, so I can't prove you right.
To Vancouver.
Head across. Bandits won 11-9. McKay and Frazier 3 each. Smith and Cloutier 2 each. Nanakoke with 1. Vince 29 of 38 saves. Shots were 41-38 in favor of Buffalo. Face-offs go to Vancouver 15-9, but the power play goes to Buffalo 2 for 3. Vancouver 0 for 2. It was 2-2 after 1. Buffalo led 5-4 at half. Vancouver took the lead and ran with it through the 3, 8-7, and then Buffalo 4-1 advantage in the 4th. Kind of took it over like Buffalo typically does, but this was a different style of game. That's kind of why we want to separate it, like Phil mentioned off the get-go, but I will let you run with the offense here, because this was a game where they needed a bit more offense, even though I don't really think the defense played badly. It's just you saw a very desperate Vancouver team that needed to win to keep their season alive.
Yeah, I thought this game, to me, I thought the Bandits did not look great. I thought they looked good. I'm not even going to say average. They looked good. They just didn't look great. They didn't look like the championship Buffalo Bandits. They didn't look like the team that we just saw win 9-3 in Buffalo. Like the first 3 quarters of this game, I honestly thought Vancouver was the better team. And yes, they were winning after 3, so it's easy to say, but the offense just didn't seem to care too much about getting to the inside. They weren't going to the dirty areas all that much. They were kind of sticking to shooting to the outside, and I think they were lucky, in my opinion, to be winning 5-4 at half, to be in it 8-7 after 3, and then from there, they looked like they flipped the switch, turned it over, and played Buffalo Bandits lacrosse, and not actually started playing, but they looked like they played great for that 4th quarter. Like that's when it looked like, okay, this is the team that played 2 nights ago in Buffalo. The first 3 quarters, I honestly thought, like you said, desperation is a big part of it, but I thought Vancouver looked like the better team, and I thought Buffalo was a little bit lucky to be as close as they were, keeping it as close as they did for that amount of time. But because they were able to do that, you could see the switch flip in the 4th and took over, and I think the offense played really well. But I thought they were just a little hesitant to get to the dirty areas. I think Vancouver did an incredible job, which is upsetting because I love the player, but I think they did a good job on Buchanan. Like he just could not find that give and go, that pick and roll with Smith. Obviously there's tape out there on that. It worked extremely well toward the end of the season for Buffalo. So I think Vancouver was like, if there's one thing we're going to eliminate, it's Buchanan getting a hat trick on us. And they focused heavily on it, and Buchanan found no room out there. There were, like you said, there were a few misplays, but those misplays were like very forced. They were last second, maybe he's open through 2 or 3 guys hoping he can get it. There was, I think, one play, might have been in the 4th quarter, where he was wide open, had a great opportunity, and I think he either missed the ball or something happened, but it was like the one time I was like, hey, there it is. Like he's open. Like that's what they've been doing so well. But I thought Vancouver, with their physicality, with their defense, did a really good job eliminating that play and eliminating Buchanan. And I think that forced the switch of the offense to move to and look to other places. But Ian McKay being Ian McKay for the first half, keeping the Bandits in it. And then the second half, I think other players like Frazier started to step up. The depth scoring stepped up massive in this game and in this series. But I thought they could have looked better in general. But I think, like you said, it was a very desperate Vancouver team that came out much more on fire. And the Bandits were the team that played championship lacrosse in that 4th quarter.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It seemed like Buchanan was kind of shut down in this series. Yes, he ended up walking away with 3 assists in this one, and 4 assists overall. But it seemed like the rough and tumble, big body defense for Vancouver was just swarming Kyle Buchanan. I think he was on the ground more times than I've seen in a long time. And, he's a smaller guy. So going against that defense, it takes a lot of uniqueness or ability to kind of bounce off those picks better than, and he's excelled in it his entire career. So, I mean, it's no shot at him whatsoever. It's just, it seemed like what you said, they were locking down that pick and go with Dane Smith and Kyle Buchanan. That's kind of why we see Smith, did he have a great series? Points wise, I mean, based on everything, the numbers wise, he had 8 points out of 20 opportunities. So right there, solid number, 40%. But it's not like it was playoff vintage Dane Smith that we have seen the last 2 or 3 off seasons. And again, they did enough. I hate saying I didn't mean to do it on purpose, but he did enough, and the offense did enough in this series to get it done. And remember, they're going against the number 1 defense in the entire league through the regular season. This was a team that allowed 10 goals against Rochester, and the majority of them came in the dying seconds when Vancouver was desperate too. But I agree with everything you said with this one. It was the depth scoring. It was the Fraziers that came alive in the fourth quarter. It was the Cloutier that came alive in this game. Nanticoke had a big goal. So it wasn't just, and E. McKay, of course, we're going to talk about that in a second, but it was not the big time honchos that led the way. Yes, they led the teams in points, but it was the secondary scoring that really led the offense here. But the defense, again, I don't think they had as good of a game as, I mean, this is a no duh kind of comment. They were not as good as Friday's game, but they still shut down Keegan Ball. And what did we say going into it? If you keep Keegan Ball to a certain amount of points, I can't remember what we said, under 8 maybe, you stand a great chance. He had 5 in this one. He went 2 for 8 shooting. Charlon Beatty's kind of went off, but even that one was, the one criticism I'll have is Priolo had a very, very, very bad start to the second quarter. I mean, goals 6 and 7, 6 and 7 were completely on him. I mean, Claridge, 5 and 6 were completely on Priolo. Lazy defense, Charlon Beatty scores right down the middle on the first shift. Wide open goal. I mean, Priolo just let him run right by. I don't even know if he knew he was there. And then Claridge, again, horrible defense at Priolo. He kind of just, next shift, Claridge just way too much space, and they take the lead. So early on in that third quarter, it seemed like that is when Vancouver was doing their most damage. I think they had like a 4-goal stretch in like 6 minutes or something like that. But overall, I thought the defense did enough on Keegan Ball this entire series to get the win. If they do not D up Keegan Ball like they did, and credit to all the defenders that were on him, it was I really like the defensive effort overall. It just seemed like they struggled a bit in sections in this game, which, I mean, again, I'm comparing it to the 3-goal effort from the Friday night, so I'm an idiot. So there you go.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they still, to me, it was kind of the opposite. The first 3 quarters, I didn't really like what they were doing, but in spurts, I thought they looked really, really good and locked things down, and then they'd have shifts where you're like, what is going on? And especially that first quarter, it looked like Vancouver was doing an incredible job cutting through the middle, being wide open for passes, and turning and firing a pretty tight in-close shot on Vince. They were I think there were 2 or 3 off a post right in a row that I was like, okay, what are we doing? And they just seemed like they were moving really well, whereas last game, the defense was playing extremely physical and wasn't allowing anybody to get to the middle. This game, Vancouver was just cutting right across the middle, receiving a pass and getting a good opportunity. And I thought they were more physical in certain areas. But then there were other times the defense looked incredible, played lockdown defense and looked great. And then especially, like we keep saying, in that fourth quarter when it, needed the Bandits needed to lock things down and play championship level Bandits lacrosse, they did. In that fourth quarter, the defense looked incredible. Like that was when they were like, okay, this is, again, the team from 2 nights ago in Buffalo. Like that was the level I was kind of looking for the whole game. It took them 3 quarters to get to that point. But to me, on the defensive side, I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4-ish against them. And 2 of them were the ones you just mentioned. The 7th one was another poor switch, and Charlon Beatty's wide open in the middle of the floor for just a very easy shot. It was just those little things that they did, again, literally to us, a flawless game in the Buffalo game. Again, 3 goals, none of them even strength. How you don't call that flawless, I don't know. But to see, like, some of the things, some of the issues where, like, this wasn't a bad game by any means. And like you said, we're comparing it to a 3-goal flawless effort. So when you have those 2 games back-to-back, it's really hard to compare them. But obviously Vancouver's coming into this game trying to make adjustments from what happened in game 1. they made the adjustments, and then Buffalo, by the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, made their readjustments to Vancouver's adjustments, and then you saw the flip of the switch again, and the lockdown defense showed right back up and finished the game really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Vince, again, unbelievable performance in that. Even if 12 goals, you had a 6-goal average in this one, and he's allowed 16 goals through 3 games. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. But no goals of the first 9:24, 10 minutes in between goals 3 and 4, 13:45 between goals 8 and 9, and no goals the final 10:28 of the game. It seemed like with Vancouver, and even if you didn't watch the game and you just looked at the box scores, they went on streaks where the defense and Matt Vince shut it down. This game could have gotten out of hand in the third quarter. I mean, it was that close to being out of hand, and Buffalo was able to score when they needed to. And I thought Matt Vince made the big-time saves. The defense, like you said, were kind of maybe being overcritical of a 9-goal effort that Vancouver put in. Again, they were desperate, and Buffalo did, and both teams, I will say, both teams had to fly from Buffalo back to Vancouver with the Saturday travel. So, and on a back-to-back. So, it is, the second game is always going to be a little bit different than the first game because teams are tired, flights, all that kind of stuff. But I thought overall this was, and for the whole playoffs so far, this goaltending and defense has been absolutely incredible. I mean, this is just furthering me being right about me saying Buffalo Bandits are kind of doing the Kansas City Chiefs, where they're just kind of like doing enough. Like we saw it in the Colorado and Halifax game. When they needed to win, when it was getting too close, they poured it on, and they got the big time wins then they needed to. Then the Georgia game, that meant nothing. Everybody was worried about going into the playoffs, losing 14-11 going into the playoffs, and then you win 5-4. 9-3 and 11-9. It's just ridiculous. But just to close this one out, penalties, Nanakoke, soft call, but I think it was the right call. He ran into Christian Del Bianco. Frazier roughing, that was a weak call. I didn't see that one whatsoever. I think that was a makeup call for something else. And then the Woody one was the right call. But overall, I thought the refs did a very good job. In this one, they were letting a lot of hard picks go to both sides. So
I like seeing that.
That's exactly what we wanted to see. If you're calling it for one team, you got to call it for the other, and it was perfect. That Frazier goal, I think it was the 7th one, 3rd one, 4th one. I don't know which one it was. 9th one, maybe.
9th one. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. He set that hard pick, and Nanakoke found him. That's exactly what happened in the Vancouver series, where I think it was Nick Weiss gets blown up, or maybe it was Belter gets blown up from behind, and the refs let him go.
It was this one. It was the Bandits had 2, I think, hard picks right in a row, and the announcers were mentioning, like, okay, if Buffalo's going to do that and the refs are going to allow it, then Vancouver needs to switch it. And as they were saying that, it was the exact same thing where Clarence went and blew up Weiss, and then he had an inside goal, and they're like, that's exactly what we're looking for. But I like that a lot more than calling those ticky-tacky kind of hard picks. Like, the defense needs to just be ready for it. I mean, how often do we see the defense constantly looking over the shoulder, waiting to get hit, waiting for that pick, and playing off of that? Like, the defense, to me, I'd rather have the defense be forced to adjust to a heavy hit coming than I would have the offense get called for that and you possibly miss great goals. Like, I'd rather see great potential goals and the defense have to, again, prepare for that hit and make the adjustments to that not being called. Then the offense get called, have a change of possession, and just constantly have that back and forth where just everything's being called. I thought overall in both series, the refs did a really good job just kind of letting things go. And like we said, calling things when they need to, but for the most part, just letting it go. That roughing call was brutal, but overall, that's fine.
Yeah, I thought they were going to send both the guys, and then it was just
just one. I was like, what? He literally just pushed them. That was weird. But the rest of it was fine, so it's all right.
The only complaint I have in this whole series.
Here we go.
The referee mics have to be fixed.
Gosh,
I thought it was just Buffalo, and then it transferred over to Vancouver, and I believe it was also in Halifax as well. It's Child's League. Like, this is pathetic that you can't get microphones to work. Even the refs seemed like they were getting frustrated with it. It would cut in and out. Sometimes it just wasn't working. How much do those cost? Like, it can't be a ton. They can invest in microphones that work. It worked all regular season.
It worked all season. What happened?
What happened? Like, are they on low battery now because they just didn't have enough? Like, oh shoot, we didn't factor in playoffs. Let's save battery here. Like, plug those things in. Like, the season's still going. But the referee mics were ridiculous. Needs to be fixed, especially on the broadcast. Like, credit to the announcers for in both games announcing, okay, this is exactly what the call was. You can kind of see if you've been watching lacrosse for enough time the signals for what it is. But like the 5-minute major, it was barely explained because the mic was cutting in and out. It's just those need to be fixed. And then Vancouver, maybe it's the TSN. I don't know what the heck was going on, but the clocks
horrible.
With the TV, it was different at different times. So like at one point it was 3 seconds behind, but the other times, it's right on. Like it wasn't consistent.
I hated it.
It was horrible watching it. And then you couldn't even see it because you couldn't see the shot clocks on the TV, so you couldn't even match it up. It's just you're like, okay, why aren't they shooting? There's 3 seconds left, 2 seconds left. They still have it. Why is the shot clock? Oh, then Teddy says, oh, yeah, there's 3 seconds left on the clock. What happened? Like, it's pathetic. Like, that stuff, the referee mics and the clock's different on TV. And again, we've said it multiple times. The clock on TV is different than what the refs are calling in game. But it's never been 3 to 4 seconds. It's always milliseconds.
Even the
like,
shot
milliseconds
clock on the review for the goal calls, they were like, oh, ignore the shot clock that's at 0. That's wrong. Why? Why is it wrong? Like, and again, to have it that far off, like it was at 0 the whole time Cloutier had the ball. Like, what? And there was another review that was the same thing. It was like a 5-second review on another goal call, and the clock's at 0 the entire time. Yeah. And there was another time, I mean, it was the whole game, but the Bandits were very calmly getting over half, and I was like, guys, you're at 18 seconds. Why is this being allowed? And they were like, no one was panicked. No, nothing. It was like, oh, okay, we're that far off on the shot clock. It was so frustrating. Even like you said, like, you're down to like 1 second. You're like, shoot the ball. What are you doing? And then they just keep playing. No whistle, no anything. It was just very difficult to watch and understand what was going on because the shot clock's huge, obviously, in lacrosse, and also trying to get the ball over at a certain speed. So watching it at home as a fan, trying to just pay attention to the game, watch the shot clock, and it's not even close. It was very frustrating and difficult to watch the game. Like eventually I just stopped watching and just kind of looked at the players, looked at the announcers, like, I don't know when it's going to be called or what's going on, but we'll just watch the game, and if it gets called, it gets called. Like, I don't know why it was so far off, but it was brutal to watch.
Next Major League, my butt. But that will conclude Game 2. We'll kind of wrap this up into a nice little bow in 1 second, but we'll go over our third and final sponsor of the show, the Totally Buffalo Store. Their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans. They are the place to go when you need a gift for a friend or you just want to be a little selfish and treat yourself. They offer 3 locations: 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 for you Northtowners like me, Center Street in Lewiston.
Normally, PK, I would try to find the upcoming events or something a little extra interesting going on for these ad reads, but this week I'm going to keep it really simple. Just go to their Facebook page, find something you like from one of their many recent Buffalo Bandits merchandise posts. They got a ton of pictures of what they offer, and go treat yourself like PK just said. The finals are coming up, and Totally Buffalo Store's one-stop shop to help you gear up for the 5th straight Buffalo Bandits finals. You can also check them out on their Instagram or visit their website at totallybuffalostore.com.
Yeah, 5 straight finals is insane. And because it's the
Take
Totally
that,
Buffalo Store,
Bills.
Yeah, they have new stuff too. So if you were there, earlier this year, it's newer stuff that you haven't seen. So if you bought stuff 5 years ago for the championship run, then when they lost to Calgary, actually that was 6 years ago, 2019. COVID screwed everything up, but they have different stuff than in prior years. So go there. It's unique, one of a kind. You can't get this stuff at the big box stores. But we'll move on. Milestones, ton of them.
Thought we were wrapping the games up.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We're going to do this first, just so I can fly through this. C. Perillo is now 5th in games played. Dane Smith is now 7th. Paul Dawson is now in 8th. Dane Smith passed Gary Gate for 4th place in goals for NLL playoff history. Josh Byrne passed Sean Evans and Gary Gate for 8th place in points. Justin Martin tied Kevin Brownell in block shots. John Tavares coached in both games, so he moves into 5th place in games played in NLL playoff history. He also passed Les Brantley for playoff wins. Stupid, ridiculous. Nick Weiss played in both games, so he did tie Mark Stainhouse for 4th Ian McKay had 7 goals, so he passed Ryan Benesh and Darius Kilgore. He's up into 9th place. Kyle Buchanan had 4 assists, so he passed Darius Kilgore. For 6th, Ian McKay and Trace Frazier both passed Ryan Benesh for 10th place in Bandits playoff history. Dane Smith had 14 loose balls, so he passed Jim Veltman and Pat McCready for 6th. Josh Byrne had 8 loose balls, so he passed Rich Kilgore for 10th. Kyle Buchanan also passed Rich Kilgore for 10th because he also had 8. So that's a little confusing. I'll deal with that one later. Ian McKay had 1 caused turnover, so he's tied with Kevin Brandell for 3rd place in Bandits history. And Connor Farrell passed Rich Kilgore for 3rd place in faceoffs, and he passed Darius Kilgore for 3rd in faceoff wins in Bandits playoff history.
John Tavares is real good at
He does not. They said it on the broadcast multiple times. Credit to Teddy and Brad for saying it, but
yes.
Rumor is NLL finalists are going to be announced this week. But if John Tavares is not a finalist for Coach of the Year, like this is like the Chief effect. This is like the LeBron James effect. They're just too good that they can't give him the award every year. And again, you have all-star players out there, but you still need to coach those all-stars to 5 straight finals in an attempt at a three-peat. Like, yes, they've lost 2 finals, but now they've won 2 in a row looking for a third. Your coach has to be a big part of that, and he is. And it's unfortunate that he does not get enough credit and doesn't get the credit he deserves for being one of, if not the greatest lacrosse player of all time, and on his way to being one of, if not the greatest coach of all time. It's unfair that one person is that skilled in one particular thing. It's stupid. We say it with Dane Smith and Josh Byrne all the time, but John Tavares is on another level. It's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he just gets punished for being good. Like all the Coaches of the Year awards, usually it's a bottom team they didn't expect to do as well that rises to the top. And do they deserve a lot of credit? Absolutely. But it's unfair that Johnny gets pretty much no credit because his team is incredible. But like you said, it needs to be coached to be incredible. Like plenty of teams have all-stars that can't gel together, can't work together, don't have a scheme that works with them, don't have a system that works with them. Toronto's one of them, and yet Johnny's able to figure it out, and his playoff record, his 5 straight finals, all of it, it's just ridiculous. And like you said, happy they said it on the broadcast multiple times because he does not get the credit that he deserves because his team is simply too good, but he deserves a ton of it because he's one of the reasons they are in the position that they're in.
Yeah, coaches that have to do something great that wasn't expected, that means you were down at some point, and usually those were coaches of the team that was down. So are they really Coach of the Year if you couldn't win games and make it into the playoffs? Saskatchewan, that I'm talking to you because you're probably going to win it. But Buffalo, we'll see what the finalists. We'll probably go over it on the Friday show. But wrapping up this weekend, Buffalo 20, Vancouver 12. Shots were 90-76. Again, massive credit to the defense and goaltending, being able to limit them to 38 shots in both games. Buffalo's power play came alive in this one, 6 for 10. Vancouver was 3 for 7 going into the playoffs. Buffalo's power play was struggling. It was something to keep an eye on, and they've kind of like, here's playoffs. We'll just crank it out. But Ian McKay, 7-3-10. Byrne, 1-8-6. Smith, 4-4-8. Frazier, 4-1-3. Kluch, who had been quiet, and Nanakook, who had been quiet, both with 2 goals in this one. And then what the defense was able to do. Charlene Beatties had 9 points, but 7 of them were in the 9-goal performance. Keegan Ball, we said he got to keep under, 8-ish points? He had 8 total points in this series. Kevin Crowley goes 1-1-2 in both games. McIntosh was quiet. Martell, who killed Bandits earlier, 2 assists on 6 shots. Cormier didn't play in game 2. Claridge 2, 3, and 5, and all 5 of those points came in the second game. So this defense and this goaltending was able to do something that a lot of teams weren't able to do to Vancouver down the stretch, which was make their offense look like it did in the first half of the season. And again, yes, Buffalo only scored 20 goals, and that's 10 per game. But what we said going into the games was they were able to beat Christian Del Bianco. There's been history of it. Matt Vince just outplayed Christian Del Bianco. It's not anything against Christian Del Bianco. 20 goals in a 2-game series versus Buffalo, that should be victories. Really just like O'Riggs letting in 5 goals should be victories. It's just you went up against the greatest goaltender and possibly greatest NLL player of all time, Matt Vince, in a defense that was unrelenting.
Yeah, Vancouver, I mean, we'll finish more on Buffalo and Vancouver, but They have an extremely bright future, which is
I'm so scared for this offseason with them.
Yeah, they're going to be extremely good down the line. This is just a
players want to go and
of
play
them
in Vancouver.
Getting great. Once they get an offense, my goodness. And it's not a huge shot. Oh, don't do that. Not a huge shot at who they have currently, but they are not nearly as deep as Buffalo is. And switching back to Buffalo, that is one thing that is huge and something that whoever plays Buffalo in the finals didn't really want to see, and that is Cloutier starting to turn his game up again. Fraser, who has been quiet, like you mentioned, starting to turn his game up. Nanakoke, who was quiet, starting to turn his game back up. So this depth scoring, which I'll get to the other one in a second, I don't think any team wants to see them be successful. Like if other teams start cluing in on them, then maybe that opens Buchanan up again to be successful. And like this team is just so incredibly deep, and it's something we've been saying forever, but we were worried about with Nanakoke, Cloutier, and Fraser. They had a little bit of down seasons, still good seasons, nothing horrible by any means, but they've been quiet. And now with them starting to get it going, Cloutier, especially at the end of that game, the couple goals he scored, you could tell he was ridiculously fired up. Obviously, you should be, but it was just, you could tell there was a different feeling for him scoring than it was anybody else scoring. Everybody else is fired up, but he's like, you could tell he's been struggling, and to see him get those goals, it seemed like it just meant more in that situation. So to see him gain that confidence moving into the finals is huge. Fraser, same thing. 4 goals in the series, gaining that confidence moving forward. And even Nanakoke, same thing again. So I think the depth scoring is massive, and I will go into my question now. I think Byrne and Smith are going to be fine. Like you said, they scored most of the points, but they didn't lead the team. Who do you, so far, I'm going to say the whole playoffs for Buffalo.
I knew this was coming. I've been trying to think to myself what this answer is going to be.
There's only two people in my opinion, and it's ridiculously close, and there's one I want to give it to, but I honestly don't know. But who is your MVP so far for Buffalo, or just obviously the playoffs, but for Buffalo through 3 games, who do you have?
I might take the easy way out here. It's not the BSC way. I'm not going to end up doing it. But if the playoffs ended today, I could see them handing out a co-MVP for the finals, which would be Ian McKay and Matt Vince. But
so good.
At this moment, I feel like I have to give the edge to Matt Vince. And I'm a big Ian McKay guy. I doubted what the offense would look like with him up there. I thought it would negatively affect the defense in transition game. Not having him there, I wish they would have kept Brandon Robinson. This was all my statements before going into this season. And, you know, he scored, 5 goals in, like, the second game playing out there. I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot. And that's why I'm sitting here and they're sitting there. But, again, this is me giving flowers where it's deserved with Ian McKay. He's ridiculous. A player that never really played forward full time, putting up the numbers that he is doing on that talented offense is fantastic. But I have to give it to Matt Vince. Like, 4-goal effort, a 3-goal effort, a 9-goal effort, being perfect. I mean, he's got over, I would have to run the numbers, but it's at least over 85 save percentage right now. It's stupid what numbers he's putting up. At one point going into Sunday's game, it was like 92 or 93 save percentage. And again, I understand the defense in front of him, but you still have to make the big time saves, and that's what he was doing in this one. When the defense was breaking down, he was still making those unbelievable saves. So I will hand it to Matt Vince, who he did not get it in Finals 1 or 2 championships, so maybe the third time's the charm.
Yeah, in this series alone, he finished with an 82.4 save percentage, so that doesn't include San Diego's ridiculous 92, so that would be probably closer to 85, like you mentioned.
That math checks out.
It's, I think it's really close. I mean, McKay, like, if you eliminate McKay from this offense, I think this offense is in trouble right now. And not to say that they're bad, but McKay's been beyond incredible so far for the entire playoffs. He was the only one with 2 goals in a 5-goal performance. He's been leading the team in these 2 games against Vancouver. So and again, same thing with Vince. So if you take Vince out, you're in trouble. So I think they're very, very close. And I do think Vince, with how above and beyond he's gone, is the bigger thing. But like, I think to me, McKay not being named Byrne or Smith is why it's closer to me that it could be McKay. Agreed. Because he's not one of the big, like, if Byrne or Smith finished the series with 7-3-10, you'd be like, okay, that's what they do. That is what it is.
That would actually be like, what the heck happened? How did they only finish with 10?
Right.
Yeah.
But McKay doing what he's been able to do is just insane. And without him on this offense, without him on this team, especially as a forward, like you mentioned. I don't know if this team is where it's at, especially, again, he got 2 of the 5 goals in the 5-4 victory. So, and at the same time, Vince held the other team to pretty much 3 goals. So it is very, very close, but I think McKay's just been a wild revelation to this team. And as a forward, like, he's just been so incredibly dominant, which is weird for a guy who's known for his beyond incredible defensive ability. I mean, we are huge, huge fans of McKay, and he's another one who I think he's starting to, for sure, get the credit he deserves, but we've said it a lot this season that for him to be able to play all-star defense and then not really need him down there to go shift to a forward and play arguably even better offenses on a team that's this deep is just absolutely incredible. Hopefully he can keep that up.
So, because of the NLL, Bandits get the benefit of having a bye week, and we'll transition into the other game that went down on Saturday. And another reason that we look like idiots, because we were all up in arms with why does Saskatchewan have to start this series on the road. And this was a must-win for Halifax. I guess that's one way that we didn't look at it, was all the pressure was put on Halifax, because if you do not win this home game, you have to go steal 2 in Saskatchewan. And it didn't happen. Saskatchewan won 16-7. I think Halifax forgot to show up. 6-3 Saskatchewan after 1. 5 straight by Saskatchewan at one point. It was 7-4 at half. 12-5 after 3. 5-1 run in the third quarter. 3 penalty shots at the end. Saskatchewan was 4 for 12 on the power play. Halifax was 0 for 4, and majority of those power plays were at the end where it didn't even matter. Thompson, Withers, Messenger, Bedreau, Smith, all game misconducts in the final 2 minutes. So that'll be something that we got to keep an eye on moving forward into the Saturday-Sunday matchup here, because I would have to check the rule book again. I don't know exactly with suspensions handing down with inside 2 minutes if you're fighting and all that kind of stuff, but Saskatchewan just came alive. It was unbelievable, the performance that they put on. Even if you want to credit the 2 power play goals that they scored right at the end there, it's still 14-7. They just put an absolute whooping on Halifax that showed the old Halifax style. All through the season, we were complimenting Halifax. They looked like a completely different team. They weren't taking the stupid penalties. Then right at the end, you had Thompson that was challenging Ryan Keenan for a fight. Because who cares? I think you asked me that same question. If Buffalo was in the same position, would Buffalo be doing what Halifax is doing? I'm maybe the old Bandits, but I don't think this style of Bandits. Would you still be, taking runs at people against the boards? But I don't see them. I wouldn't
grabbing
see
face masks and fighting.
I wouldn't see a Zach Belter go up to a Keegan Ball and try to fight him. I wouldn't see a Paul Dawson go to an Adam Charlambides and try to fight him. I wouldn't see that. I would see them still, if anybody comes near Vince, you see what Dylan Robinson did. But I don't see this style of play from Bandits. Again, Halifax can do whatever they want. It's just this showed what we thought they were last year, where I didn't think they were this year. I had Halifax making it to the finals. And going into this coming weekend, which we'll talk about on the next show, but Saskatchewan only needs to win one of those 2 games to advance to the finals. And this is a big weekend for Buffalo Bandits fans to watch, because one of these 2 teams that win this weekend is going to be your opponent come playoffs, come finals. But it was very disappointing to me to see Halifax pretty much be a no-show in this one. It's just how dangerous Saskatchewan's offense can be when they're legit on it.
Yeah, the big thing with their offense outside of Shanks, obviously Church is incredible, but one of the big things with them is they don't have that huge 135-point getter, but they're very, very balanced throughout the whole team.
4 guys over 70, I believe.
Exactly, and that's what you see in this game. You got 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal, 1 goal, 2 goals, 2 goals, and then Shanks with his ridiculous 6 goals. But
against his
outside
former
of
team,
that,
too.
Yeah, which I'm sure he was absolutely loving. He seemed to enjoy it at the interview after the game as well. But to see that kind of balance, that's what Saskatchewan's all about. They don't have that extreme all-star. They have plenty of all-stars on the team, but they're a more balanced attack where they don't really care who gets it. It's just whoever scores, and they're very balanced in that way. And it showed in this game. Frank Scigliano showed up and played amazing. He's going to be a bit scary if the Rush are the team that advances, but Halifax, that's a big thing. Even headed into the series, I picked Buffalo and Saskatchewan to be my finalists, and so far it looks all right. But headed into this game and headed into the series, I was honestly worried that Halifax was going to be the better team, was going to be able to take this series, and I would be wrong in that way. I thought they were a team that could face up against the Rush and take them down, and the way they played was not very good. And like you said, to see them implode at the end of the game, especially in the middle of a series when you still have 2 games to go, wasn't the last game of the series. Like, it just, I mean, immature is possibly the way to say it, but I don't know. I just don't understand that. Like, it looks like you're already giving up with those kind of penalties and trying to fight everybody at the end of the game. Like, if it was end of game 2 and your season's over, fine. I mean, you're probably just frustrated that you're going home and you're going to start picking fights with whoever. But in this kind of game, when you still have 2 games to go, like, is it going to be extremely difficult? Yes. It's not going to be easy to go into Saskatoon and win 2, but your season isn't over. And they played like it was at the end of that game. So, I don't know. Upsetting to see from a team that, like you said, has been so dominant, was so good all year. I was also pumping them up most of the season as a kind of team that wasn't talked about enough as being one of the top teams in the league. They did a great job in the first round, and I thought they were going to be a team that could hold their own against the Rush, and they just weren't able to. And again, like you said, they reverted back to their old ways at the end of that game, and unfortunate to see because I would have liked to see a better series. It's not over. Obviously, still got 2 games to go, so we'll see. But the big thing for Buffalo is get healthy, and that extra week off will be pretty nice for a pretty banged-up team. Luckily, Byrne looks wildly healthy, which is great to see. But outside of that, everybody seems a bit banged up, so Buffalo's going to enjoy some recovery time for the finals.
Yeah, thank you, NLL, for that. But it does seem like Kyle Matisse has a very realistic chance to come back for the finals, which would be big.
Question later, who do you remove at this point with how well that
Ron
defense
John,
has been?
In my opinion, I would put Ron John on the bench and put Kyle Matisse in because, again, there's so many transition players that would be my suggestion to get another big-bodied out there. But again, it might depend on is it Halifax or Saskatchewan. So that will conclude this episode. We'll kind of preview a tiny bit Halifax versus Saskatchewan this coming weekend. Games are Saturday and Sunday, both in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan only has to win 1. Halifax has to sweep it. And again, that's why we're idiots because, at least me, for sure. I thought it was dumb by the league to do that. I still do, but it ended up not mattering and putting all the pressure on Halifax, who crumbled. On the next episode, there will not be a ton of Bandits content because they're on bye, but we did say we would find a way to squeeze this in, so I'm sorry, but the 4th annual BSC Award show for the Buffalo Sabres season will be going on. We'll just give our nominees, and then the final show the next show on next Monday will be the winners of that season because whoop-de-doo for that. But that will conclude this episode. Bandits are in the finals for the 5th straight time, Phil. It's a fun time to be a Western New Yorker for the Buffalo Bandits.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy because, again, we always say it so much. This is not normal. This doesn't always happen, so enjoy it. But thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article will be out on Wednesday. Give that a read for anything we did not cover in this one, which was a lot. Check out our store and our link tree on our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.